Welcome back to the Canopy Practice Success podcast. And today I'm joined by Blake Oliver. Blake is a CPA and one of the most trusted voices in accounting media. You may know him from his time hosting the Accounting Podcast, where he's helped firm leaders cut through the noise and understand what's really changing in the profession. He's constantly in conversation with firm owners, tech leaders, and innovators, which gives him a unique perspective on where accounting is headed and what firm leaders should actually be paying attention to. Blake, welcome.
Casey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's always nice to be on with someone who knows how this goes and can roll with the punches. So I'm excited for our conversation. Tell us a little bit about your journey to where you're at. How much time you spent as a CPA, how and why you pivoted. And then we've got a hot take that you shared with me earlier that I'm excited to dig into.
Sure. So I am a career changer. I was a music major in college. I went to Northwestern University for cello performance.
Oh, fun.
And I wanted to be in an orchestra or play in a string quartet, or actually the thing I really wanted to do was play on film scores. So I moved to LA after college and was gigging around, playing the cello, doing a lot of weddings, trying to break into studio music.
Yeah.
And the Great Recession happened that year. So fun fact about entertainment and film and TV, the last thing to get done in a production is the music. And so it's the first thing in the budget that gets cut. So it was not a great time to be an instrumentalist. And it was around the same time that synthesizers were getting really good. So you could now, as a composer for TV or film, you could buy a sound library. The Berlin Philharmonic sampled all the instruments in the orchestra and sold it for $300. So now you could buy that sample set, play it on your keyboard, and it didn't sound real, but it sounded good enough for a lot of the music that was being currently then recorded with live musicians. So basically, my job got automated, and I saw that it was going to be really hard to break in to actually do it, and so I started looking for something else, and that's how I got into accounting, funny enough. And
Of all careers.
yeah, I started bookkeeping. I was good with numbers, started good with computers, started doing some bookkeeping in LA, and I got into the cloud accounting realm really early. I discovered Xero and QuickBooks Online, and I realized I could do all this stuff remotely rather than driving around. And I started hiring bookkeepers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was good I was in LA because the driving was really painful. So it inspired me to do that. So basically, I started my own firm doing cloud-based accounting and bookkeeping, and grew that over 5 years and was fortunate to have an exit. CPA firm came along and wanted to buy it. And then I went into accounting tech. So that's the short story. So I guess, to answer your question, I've been a CPA for, well, actually, it's not really that long because I waited until after I sold my firm to actually get my license.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I was doing it while I was in school, right?
Yeah.
So I've been a CPA now for what, like 10 years maybe?
Okay.
And that's how I got into it. And what else do you want to know?
So many things. Well, so first, side note, as someone I admire very much had a very similar journey to you. I don't know if you're familiar with Arthur Brooks, Harvard professor, has written several books. He began as a French horn player. And I'm not sure just how far he went, but I know he didn't become or enter the career path he's in now as an author and professor and philosopher of sorts until his mid-30s. And so just kind of funny that you share that. But I love it too because especially the bookkeeping entry point to accounting is so approachable because you don't need your CPA. And I know there's been a lot of feedback on the CPA recently, the process, the requirements, the fact that there aren't a ton of people going after it because you have your undergrad and then the master's, and it's a high credit major to be able to meet all of the qualifications, and firms are even getting creative. They will count your internship towards it and all these different things. But I love the path of bookkeeping into the career for those reasons, but also because bookkeeping is like the battleground for understanding business. And I feel like it's such a great foundation for so many of the other skills.
Yeah, if you don't know how to do your debits and credits, I don't know how you can be an accountant. I think every accountant should do some bookkeeping. We skip it a lot of times. I don't understand. I feel like my understanding of like financial statements, accounting is just so strong because I actually did the entries. I made the entries. And you just meet so many CPAs who actually don't know their debits and credits, unfortunately. So yeah, I think it's great. I think more of us should get started in bookkeeping and get experience doing it. It's great. Served me well.
I heard recently someone say that maybe bookkeeping is a 4-letter word. Do you Have you picked up on similar sentiments?
I mean, only if you're an elitist and an
Yeah.
asshole, basically. Yeah. Then,
Calling it how it is. Yeah, I've only heard that once, and I was so confused by it that I was like, "I need to check this and see if anybody else has heard this," because again, like, it is foundational knowledge that gets you to what I think is some of the most strategic work. And that when you have that information, your point, debits, credits, profit and loss, when you're especially if you're focusing on specific kinds of businesses, whatever characteristics you choose to focus on, size of business, the industries, whatever, man, you become an expert in crucial information that can change people's lives.
yeah, absolutely. Although, to be fair, most bookkeepers are not out there changing people's lives. They're just getting the books done to get a tax return done or to get like an audit done. If you actually want to change people's lives in accounting, you got to do like more than just put the books together. So,
Agreed,
yeah.
1000%. What do you think what is stopping people from doing that? Because every accountant I talk to talks about how much they love their clients.
So I spent a couple of years working at a software company called Giraffe. We made financial
Yeah,
planning and analysis software. And that's where I learned how to do forward-looking financial
yeah,
statements.
yeah.
And I
Okay.
learned that you need 3 pieces of data in order to forecast a business. You need accounting data, and
Wait,
that's
wait,
what,
wait. Even before we get there, why
yeah.
is it important to forecast a business?
Well, if you want to make a difference, like the historical financials don't change anything for a
Yeah.
business. So if you actually want to like make a difference for your client as an accountant doing bookkeeping, you have to be able to show them where they're going,
Yeah.
right?
I know it's an obvious question, but I think it's worth
Oh,
calling
no,
out.
it's fair. And so if you want to do that, right, you
3
can't
pieces.
forecast using just accounting data.
No.
I mean, you can, but it's going to be a bad forecast because you're just taking what happened in the past and applying a percentage or something and then guessing and hoping. And the real way to do it that the Excel ninjas use, that like FP&A people use, is they join a bunch of data. So you've got accounting data. I said there's 3 types of data you need, right? Accounting data, operational data, and people data. So accounting data, that's easy. We know what that is. Operational data, that's all the stuff, the metrics that are happening in your business that lead to sales and revenue and expenses. They are the drivers of it. So an example would be website visits if you're an e-commerce store, or it would be the number of people who walk into your store if you're a brick and mortar store every day, or it could be the number of widgets you make, or it could be the number of sales calls your people are making, or whatever it is that drives the eventual revenue or expense. That's operational data. And that's not in the accounting system. And then the third one is people. And that's how much are you people being paid? What are their salaries? When did you hire them? When are they due for an increase? What are they doing? And what are your plans to hire more people or lay them off, right? That drives your people expense, which is significant
Yeah.
in a lot of businesses. So if you have those 3 pieces of data, then you can forecast a business. So like this is the problem with accounting is that we focus on one type
Mhm.
of data, financial data. It
Yeah.
has to have like a money sign in front of it. And so we're missing 2/3 of what matters.
And when you go about trying to capture those other 2 points, does it come with new data analytics skills, or is it just a matter of like, okay, you just need access to the data in general? You need to know like what systems. I feel like this is where we start to see bookkeeping evolve into a lot of IT, or at least software advisement.
There's a lot of technology involved in collecting
Yeah.
all this data, right? So
Yeah.
my view is that if you want to increase your value as a bookkeeper or an accountant doing this kind of work, you start collecting. Just start collecting the important data that's not financial. And you could do it in a spreadsheet. And you could work with that business owner to figure out what is it that's important to them that they track. How can I help them track it? And just start collecting it and going over it with them. And once you start doing that, you will find ways to identify correlation or causation between the different metrics that you're collecting. So we notice that when we get more people in the store, we make more sales. Go figure, right? So then we start to think, how do we get more people in the store and how can we incentivize our team to do that or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Team makes more sales calls. We get more meetings booked. We close more deals. When we incentivize the team to upsell, then they upsell more, right? Like that's how we as the accountant can help a business owner is helping them identify the drivers of the financial results and then monitor them and improve them.
Yeah. We had someone on the podcast not too long ago who talked about even an example they gave was, hey, this small business owner likes going to trade shows. and capture leads there. But then if you look at like the conversion rate of their website and different things, that's actually more effective. But
Yeah.
how would you know these things if you're not tracking it and
Yeah.
collecting the information? And can you
Exactly.
still find a way for the small business owner to get the fuel and energy that they like at these trade shows or the in-person things, and maybe supplement it with other activities, networking or whatever, right? Or add this new selling motion here or wait lists
Yeah.
or whatever. And that's where you can start to see a lot of these advisory opportunities.
Yeah. Maybe the team is not following up on those leads at the trade shows very
And
well.
that's not accounting, that's
No.
operational. But like,
Right.
who else
But
is
there's
going to?
numbers in it, right?
Yes.
So we are numbers people. So we should be looking at all the numbers, not just the financial numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other tips or tricks on how someone might need to get started in entering these two other arenas of data tracking? Is it,
Have a conversation with your client. Talk to them about what matters to them. They're probably already tracking this in some way. It just might not be systematic.
do you think there is there some sort of sell, or do you think the clients will be like, oh my gosh, yes, sign me up yesterday?
I think you just have to start doing it and showing it to them.
Okay.
And then that will increase your value. The value is not necessarily like in the data collection. It's just
Right.
like the value in like accounting is not in the bookkeeping itself. That's like very low value. What the value is in the access to you to get information, to get analysis, to get your opinion. And so I recommend when accountants want to sell quote unquote advisory services, you're selling like a meeting on a regular cadence. So
Yeah.
meet with the client weekly or monthly or quarterly. You could have different prices for those. And in those meetings, you then talk about all this stuff. And all the data collection is just to facilitate having those discussions in the meeting. So that's what they're paying for. They're paying for access to you. And you have to have good information to provide them for them to want to. So you should just do that without getting paid. You should just collect the data so that you have something to tell them. And then you get paid for the meeting where you tell them, right?
Yeah.
That's
And you
my
knock
view.
their socks off.
Yeah. So,
Do you change your services or add services? Or again, how do you?
well, you have to do the bookkeeping.
Right.
So a lot of accountants don't want to do bookkeeping. They want to just do the tax return and advisory, do some CFO kind of work. That doesn't work because if you have bad books, you can't give them insights. You don't have this data and you don't have even accurate financial data. So it's pointless. So you need to do the bookkeeping. So that means you either have to hire a team to do it or you have to do it yourself. And then you can make sure the data's good. Garbage in, garbage out, right? We don't want the garbage in. We want perfection in. Same thing with the tax return too. Once you start doing the books, doing a tax return gets a lot easier because you have all the information you need in January because you've been doing the books the whole year or your team has been doing them and collecting the information that you need. And so it's great for a firm to do all that stuff for a client because it just unpacks busy season. It spreads the work out throughout the year and
Which leads
gives
us to
you
your hot
recurring
take.
revenue. You get recurring
Yes.
revenue throughout the year. You spread out the money. You don't have this feast or famine situation. You're doing more for fewer clients. So you don't have as many clients calling you all the time. And they're getting more value because the outputs you give them are more accurate.
Yes. Which leads us to the hot take you shared with me before we hit record, which is that you believe that all of the ills and woes of busy season are self-inflicted.
Yes. And I go beyond that. I would say that all the problems in the accounting profession that make it
Regardless of the time of year.
that make it a not great place to work, that make people complain about it, all of that is self-inflicted. All of it. We do it to ourselves. It doesn't have to be this way.
Okay. So paint someone a picture of the way it can. You started to right
Yeah.
there with like okay, if we're doing the books, then we have all of the inputs we need to be able to turn our tax returns around really quickly. Continue.
Well, I want to step back and just talk about why I joined accounting, why I
Yeah.
became a bookkeeper and wanted to get my CPA. And it's because, and you might laugh, it's because it had great work-life balance, very flexible. Accounting was very flexible for me. Good pay, right? And interesting work. Now, if you go talk to a lot of accountants and ask them, do you like accounting? And a lot of them will say, no, I don't like accounting. I just do it because it's a steady job, right? And they'll tell you, other than that, though, it kind of sucks because it's not flexible, right? I have to like be in the office. I'm always working, right? They'll say it's not flexible. They'll say the pay's not great for the hours I'm working because I'm working so many hours because I'm working 50, 60, 70 hours a week for 6 months a year. And then they'll say the work's boring. And I had the exact opposite experience. And I think it's because I just didn't go into accounting the traditional route. I'm a career changer. I didn't go,
Right.
you know,
You
I didn't.
weren't tainted by the typical way in which a large CPA firm is run and
Yes.
has been run for decades.
And most large CPA firms are run on a billable hours model
Mhm.
where the hours you work are your value to the firm. They incentivize everybody to work as many billable hours as possible. And there's very little work-life balance, especially during busy season. And there's like two busy seasons because you've got the winter
Yep.
and you've got the fall. People have to do the same work over and over again. So it gets boring. Like after a year in the same position, it's just rinse and repeat, same as last year.
Yeah.
And so people are not happy. And it doesn't have to be that way. And we can go down this list and I can tell you exactly how to not make it this way because I had a firm where it wasn't this way. And I've been watching the accounting profession as an observer and a journalist for, over a decade. I don't know, where do you want to start? We got the work-life balance, the pay, the interesting work, all
I
that.
want to start with, I guess, flexibility, which is kind of work-life balance. I would
Yeah.
like to, I get why people in existing large firms don't think there's much flexibility. But I think I
Yeah.
also see why you saw that there was flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I worked for myself. So I could
Exactly.
set my own hours.
Well,
And
and again, you weren't influenced by any other form or ways of building your business. And so you built it the way that made sense to you, which I'm sure had some positivities.
yeah, I mean, I just built it to be a place where I want to work. And I'm the sort of person where I do not work well 9 to 5. So I want a job where I can start working when I'm inspired and stop when I'm not and work when I want and where I want. So I like to work remotely. Accounting is great because we do everything on a computer. Everything's paperless now. There's zero reason why you need to be in an office to do the
Yeah.
work. It's easy to do a lot of it at random hours because as long as you're not on calls with people, it's not like you have to be doing this with somebody else. Most of the time, you can just do it on your own. So, like, I would go to class and then I would come home and I would do a couple hours of work in the evening watching TV, like some show where I'm not really paying full attention to it, right? And I'm doing my bookkeeping work for my clients. So, when I started my firm, I set it up this way where everyone could work remotely. We just had a few hours where you had to be online every day, a couple hours of overlap so that we could have team meetings and stuff. But the rest of the time, you could work on your own schedule and from anywhere in the world. So we had a team member who like traveled around a lot. We had international people. We had people that just like to stay at home and work normal schedules. Everyone just worked when they needed to. And we evaluated people not based on, the hours that they were putting in, but based on their outputs, like how many clients were they serving, how much revenue were they bringing into the firm. I mean, you could easily see that. We could see how much each client was paying and who the bookkeeper was assigned to them. And so we cared about that, not their hours. Who cares about their hours? We care about revenue. We care about profit. We're
Yeah.
accountants,
Amen.
right?
Seriously.
So flexibility, that's the first one. Like these firms that require people to be in the office, why? I think it's because I'll tell you why.
I thought
I
you
think
were going
it's
to say something else.
yeah, I'll tell you why. Because I was a manager in a large public accounting firm for a year and I watched other senior managers and directors and partners. These people have never learned how to properly manage a team. And so the way they manage is by walking around and talking to people, which is not a bad way to manage. It's called management by walking around. It's been done for decades, if not
Yeah.
centuries, and it works. If you have a good relationship with your staff, they'll tell you what's going on, you check in, right? But there's better ways to manage people. There's metrics you can track. We are accountants, we are numbers people. We can just track their output and their work, and we don't have to walk around and supervise them that way. And so if that's the only reason you have an office, that's a really bad reason.
Yeah.
And the other one is, building like team camaraderie. And being in an office does that for sure. There's no way around that. But I know plenty of firms that do this with like quarterly offsites. So you save all this money by not having an office, and then you can use it to pay to fly every single person in your company to some central place and have like a team retreat every quarter for like a few days and get you pack it all in, right? The same socializing that happens 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there in the office now happens in a few days, right? And you can get the same result. Plenty of firms that do that. So that's one. The pay would be next.
Yeah, talk to me about that because
Yeah.
I've always seen accounting. I even remember in college, a guy I dated who was highly influenced by his father to pursue a career in accounting because of the stability and earnings that would come with it. And I remember at the university I went to, it was a fairly prestigious major. to pursue at the business school. Now, I agree with the comment you made earlier about, okay, maybe salary is good, but for the amount of hours you're working, it's crap.
Yeah.
And I have my best friend, her husband worked for KPMG for years, and he put in his time. And I'm just like, why? To what end? Like, is the work you're doing at 2 a.m. really that high quality?
Yeah.
What?
No, it's
Why?
not.
No.
Yeah. And I think you called it out there, right? That the pay is actually not bad on
Right.
paper, but it's bad when you look at how many hours you're working. And I think we forget as accountants that, like you said, not every hour is equal.
No.
And so those incremental hours over 40 in a week are worth way more than the first 10, 20, 30, 40, because
Mhm.
those are your free time. Those are your vacation. Those are your time to do stuff other than work. So if you are sacrificing 10 hours, 20 hours a week to work, I would say those are worth 2, 3, 4 times as much as the original 40. And so really your pay is like half of what it should be. To me, if you're working like those long hours, you should be making what like a doctor would make working those hours, not what an accountant would make. So it's just, we need to reject that as a profession and not accept it. And I think that a lot of the problem is this hourly billing mentality where, you incentivize hours worked. The only way that the firm can make more money is by you working more hours. So that naturally creates an incentive for the firm to work you as many hours as possible. And they don't have to pay you overtime because accountants are exempt from overtime. So there is no reason why they shouldn't do it other than being nice. But
Yeah.
we all know that in business, being nice doesn't win. It's profit that wins in the end. So the business model of these large firms is what causes this problem of the overwork and the low relative pay. I think the other problem is just that, like, you can make a lot more money on your own, but a lot of accountants just aren't willing to take the risk. They prefer the stability, the security of having the job at the big firm versus like owning their own practice.
Mhm.
And so that limits them as well. I don't know if there's anything that can help with that other than, like, I mean, if you don't like the pay, you can always go work for yourself and actually you can make more money, but it's going to be hard at first, right? You're going to take
Yeah.
a dive for a year or
Yeah.
two.
Well, so I just finished a book called The Art of Danish Living: How to Find Happiness in and Out of Work. It's written by the author of the Happiness Institute that is headquartered in Copenhagen. I have a fascination with Denmark, if you can't tell.
Well, they're some of the happiest people in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's written several books, but this one he's focusing on a few things, but he dives into a lot of why that's happening at work and even the productivity impacts that happen when you have someone who is happy at work. They stay longer, which means you have less turnover, which means that the money you're spending on operations is less and that you're getting more out of your talent. Anyway, all sorts of interesting things. I think it's worth a read when thinking about how can I reevaluate, especially if you're a leader at a firm and you want to insert some reforms. As an individual, he had a whole section on what he called FU money, of like getting to the point where you can have enough saved to be like, forget this.
Yeah, yeah.
I can now take this risk.
Yeah, or if I don't like my job, I can just quit.
Yes, exactly. And I've
When I
gotten
got to that position in my career where I could just quit if I didn't like it and know that I'm going to get another job, that changed my life.
Yeah.
I'm no longer afraid
Yeah.
of being unemployed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
want to get
love
to that point as soon as possible.
Seriously, though.
Yeah.
He talked about the FIRE movement too with that.
Mhm.
If you've heard of FIRE, what is that? Something
Yeah,
about retiring
it's
early.
it's basically like you save up. I forget exactly what the acronym stands for, but yeah, you save up your money and you learn to live cheaply so you can retire early and often
Yep.
abroad. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all very good points. Because again, if you don't have something in your life like LA traffic to motivate you to leave a situation and create something better, if you don't have money saved to be able to say, you know what, I've got enough of a cushion that I can take a risk with lessening the fear. Highly recommend you get there, because Blake is not the first person we've spoken to on the podcast who has shared these sentiments. Though, Blake, I feel like you've shared them in a much more direct way and in a way that is like, here are some other tools and resources to help you not just start your own thing, but to start a thing that is phenomenal, that really can make the impact you want to make on businesses, aside from just helping them keep their lights on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, it's all self-inflicted. We do this to ourselves.
Yeah.
Tax season is a great example, right? Why in this country do we have a single deadline for everyone that's the same? Why is it April 15th? Why? Why does it have to be that? It doesn't. We could change it. There's countries where instead of a single day for everyone, it changes depending on your birthday.
Oh.
So, like, your taxes are due your birthday month for the previous year, or it could be a lot of different reasons. Like, it just spreads out the work for the IRS. It spreads out the work for the accounting firms. We could just give. We could also just give everyone a year to do their taxes. Like, why? So the smart firms are just doing this themselves, and they are scheduling out the work from January through April, and then extending anyone who doesn't get scheduled and spreading it out, until September, October, 10 months. So like it's all doable. Same thing with like all of these, SEC deadlines, public company stuff. Like, we created those deadlines. We invented quarterly financial statements. There's no reason we couldn't do them twice a year. That's actually one thing that I agree 100% with Donald Trump on. He said we should move away from quarterly financial statements to twice a year like the rest of the world. Why not? All the studies show it would make no difference to the information that investors get. They would still have plenty of information. Works great in the UK and Australia, everywhere else. Why do we do it 3-4 times a year? It just creates twice as much work.
Yeah.
So
we're American. We've got to overcomplicate business sometimes.
Well, we do that with taxes, that's for sure. And, we do it with our regulations too, I guess, to some extent. But yeah, it's like, we just need to think outside the box as a profession. We need to just stop accepting that this is the way it's always been, because it really hasn't been. It's only been about 100 years.
Yeah.
Only 100 years since the first public company, reporting requirements. The SEC was created after the Great Depression. Only 100 years. And it's only been about 100 years that we've been using time tracking. So we could drop both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, thank you so much. This was eye-opening, and I hope listeners, learned so many things. I would love to, we'll have to chat more, but there's just so much opportunity there with even just your point of the 3 key data points and helping bookkeepers, CPAs transform beyond books to collecting data that provides them with the information they need to really get into advisory. Thanks, Blake.
Well, thanks for having me. Great chatting with you, Casey.